A farmer's leap through time. What if a modern American farmer, armed with 21st century knowledge, found himself stranded in a flood-ravaged land 1,000 years in the past? Could he save a starving kingdom from collapse? Or would he be branded a sorcerer and lose everything? In this thrilling tale, you'll uncover the jaw-dropping secrets of time travel, witness a clash of eras, and discover how one man's ingenuity could rewrite history. Stick around to find out if Henry Thompson, a rugged Texan farmer, can defy the odds, save a kingdom, and unlock the mystery of his impossible journey. The sun blazed over the endless amber fields of Lubbock, Texas, in the summer of 2025. Henry Thompson, a 36-year-old farmer with calloused hands and a weathered Stetson, wiped sweat from his brow as he surveyed his thriving cornfields. His life was simple: work the land, coax life from the soil, and share cold beers with neighbors under the starlit plains. But that morning, something felt off. The air shimmered like a mirage, and a strange hum vibrated through the ground, faint but persistent. Henry squinted, shielding his eyes against the glare, when a blinding flash engulfed him. His heart raced as the world spun. Cornstalks blurred into nothingness, and a bone-deep chill replaced the Texas heat. When his vision cleared, Henry stood ankle-deep in muddy water, surrounded by swaying rice paddies under a sky heavy with monsoon clouds. The air smelled of wet earth and decay. Gone were his fields, his tractor, his world. Instead, wooden plows and straw-hatted figures dotted the horizon, their faces etched with worry. This was no dream. Henry had stumbled into Vietnam in the year 1100, during the Lai dynasty, a time when relentless floods drowned crops and hunger stalked the land. Confusion gripped him as villagers whispered, their eyes wide with suspicion at his strange clothes, blue jeans and a flannel shirt, alien in this world of linen robes. A woman, her face lined with hardship, pointed at him and muttered, "Quila." Strange demon. Henry's high school Spanish was useless here, but his gut told him he was far from home. His only clue was a faint, pulsating glow in the distance, barely visible through the misty hills. Was it the key to his return? Or a trap? As he stumbled through the muddy village, children scampered away, and men gripped their tools like weapons. Henry's mind raced. He wasn't just a fish out of water. He was a man out of time. But years of wrestling with drought, pests, and Texas storms had forged a stubborn streak in him. If he was stuck here, he'd make the best of it. The fields around him were a disaster, waterlogged, chaotic, and barely yielding enough to feed a family, let alone a kingdom. Henry knew farming, modern farming. He could build dikes, rotate crops, and maybe even save these people from starvation. But would they trust a stranger who looked like he'd fallen from the sky? The stakes were higher than he realized. Whispers reached him of a desperate king, Lin Antong, whose rule teetered as famine tightened its grip. The royal court buzzed with rumors of divine anger, and Henry's arrival hadn't gone unnoticed. To some, he was a savior sent by the gods. To others, he was a threat, a foreigner with dangerous ideas. As he stood in the muck, a shadow fell over him. A stern-faced official in flowing robes, flanked by spear-wielding guards, barked orders in a tongue Henry couldn't grasp. The message was clear: prove your worth, or pay the price. In the days to come, Henry would face a world of superstition, betrayal, and impossible odds. Could a lone Texan farmer outsmart nature, win over a skeptical people, and survive the wrath of a medieval court? And what was the glowing light in the hills? A path home, or something far more dangerous? One thing was certain: Henry Thompson's fight for survival had just begun, and the fate of a kingdom rested on his shoulders. This is no ordinary time travel tale. You'll be hooked by Henry's daring ingenuity, laugh at his culture clash blunders, and grip your seat as he races against time to avert disaster. Will he triumph and unlock the secrets of his journey? Or will he be trapped forever in a world that fears him? Dive into this epic clash of past and present, where every choice could mean salvation or doom. Henry Thompson, a Texan farmer stranded in the year 1100 Vietnam, stood knee-deep in the muddy rice paddies of the Red River Delta, his flannel shirt clinging to his sweat-soaked back. The air buzzed with the drone of insects and the distant rumble of thunder, a reminder of the monsoon's unrelenting wrath. Around him, The villagers of Tan Hoa, gaunt, weary, and suspicious, watched his every move. To them, Henry was an enigma, a towering figure with sun-bleached hair and strange garments, claiming he could save their drowning crops. His bold promise to build dikes and teach modern farming techniques had sparked hope in some, but fear in others. Whispers of Fu Tui, sorcerer, followed him like a shadow. Henry's first task was to tame the floodwaters that ravaged the fields each year. Back in Lubbock, he'd seen his share of flash floods, and he knew the power of a well-built levee. With a stick, he sketched his plan in the mud, a network of earthen dikes to channel the Red River's fury, paired with trenches to drain excess water. The villagers, led by a wiry farmer named Min, stared at the drawings, their brows furrowed. "This is madness," Min muttered, his voice thick with doubt. "The river gods will punish us for defying their will." Henry grinned, his Texan charm cutting through the tension. "Back where I'm from, we don't wait for gods to fix our problems. We roll up our sleeves and get to work. You want rice to feed your kids? Help me build this." His confidence was infectious, and Min, though skeptical, rallied a dozen men to the cause. They hauled mud and bamboo under Henry's direction, their hands blistered but their spirits lifted by his relentless optimism. He taught them to pack the earth tight, layering it with stones scavenged from the riverbank. When he called the rice liquid gold, the villagers chuckled, their laughter a rare break in their grim existence. Henry's odd phrases, peppered with terms like y'all and get our done, became a source of amusement, easing their wariness. But not everyone was charmed. The local mandarin, Lord Nguyen, a sharp-eyed official with a silk robe and a sharper tongue, saw Henry as a threat to his authority. From his perch in the wooden pavilion overlooking the village, Nguyen watched the dike building with a scowl. "This foreigner speaks of miracles," he hissed to his advisor, a sly man named Hung. "He claims to command the river itself. Such arrogance invites disaster." Hung, ever eager to curry favor, suggested a darker course, accused Henry of witchcraft. If the dikes failed, one could rally the villagers against him, solidifying his own power. They began spreading rumors, claiming Henry's strange tools, a makeshift level made from wood and a borrowed bronze weight, were cursed relics. Henry, oblivious to the brewing conspiracy, threw himself into the work. By day, he toiled alongside the villagers, his muscles aching as he hauled mud and shouted encouragement. By night, he lay under the stars, haunted by the glowing light he'd seen in the hills on his first day. It pulsed faintly, calling to him like a siren. Was it a way home? A relic of whatever force had brought him here? He confided in Lynn, a quick-witted village girl who'd taken to following him, her curiosity outweighing her fear. "That light," she whispered one evening, her eyes wide. "The elders say it's the work of spirits. They guard a forbidden place." Henry's gut told him it was more than superstition, but he had no time to investigate, not with the floods looming and Nguyen spies watching his every move. The first test came sooner than expected. A sudden downpour swelled the Red River, sending torrents toward the village. The new dikes groaned under the pressure, and a section began to crumble. Panic swept through the workers. Min grabbed Henry's arm, his voice trembling. "Your walls are failing. The gods are angry." Henry's heart pounded, but he'd faced worse: tornadoes, droughts, bank foreclosures. "Hold steady," he barked, climbing atop the dike. With Lynn's help, he rallied the villagers to reinforce the breach, piling mud and bamboo as the water roared. For hours, they fought the flood, Henry's voice cutting through the storm. "We ain't losing this fight, y'all." Miraculously, the dike held. The village cheered, their trust in Henry cemented. Even men clapped him on the back, muttering, "Maybe you're not a demon after all." But the victory was short-lived. Lord Nguyen seized the moment to strike. At a village gathering, he accused Henry of defying the natural order. "This man's sorcery angers the river gods," he declared, pointing a jeweled finger. "His dikes will bring ruin." The crowd wavered, torn between their gratitude and their fear of divine wrath. Henry, never one to back down, stepped forward, his voice steady but fiery. "You call me a sorcerer? Fine, but I'm the only one keeping your people from starving." Judge me by my results, not your fears." The crowd murmured, some nodding, others clutching prayer beads. Nguyen's face darkened, but he held his tongue for now. Henry's next challenge was the crops. The flooded fields yielded sickly rice, barely enough to sustain the village. Drawing on his knowledge of modern agriculture, he introduced crop rotation and composting, explaining how nutrients could revive the soil. He showed the villagers how to plant legumes between rice cycles, a trick he'd learned from a Texas A&M extension course. The villagers were skeptical, but Lin, ever his ally, convinced a few to try. When the first green shoots appeared stronger than before, word spread, and more joined in. Henry's nickname, the Gold Farmer, took root, a nod to his liquid gold quip and his uncanny success. Yet the glowing light in the hills gnawed at him. One moonless night, unable to resist, Henry slipped away to investigate. Lin insisted on joining, her bravery masking her fear. They trekked through dense jungle, the air thick with mist and the hum of unseen creatures. At the hill's crest, they found a stone archway, ancient and weathered, pulsing with an eerie blue glow. Symbols unlike anything Henry had seen, neither Vietnamese nor English, etched its surface. As he reached out, the glow flared, and a voice echoed in his mind. "Prove your worth, traveler." Lin gasped, hearing it too. Before they could react, hoofbeats thundered behind them. Nguyen's guards, tipped off by a spy. Henry and Lin fled, the mystery of the archway unresolved but burning in his mind. Back in the village, tensions boiled. Nguyen, furious at Henry's growing influence, sent a message to the royal court in Tang Long, accusing him of treason. Word came back swiftly. King Lion and Tong himself would decide Henry's fate. A royal envoy arrived, a stern man named Tran, who summoned Henry to an audience. "The king hears of your deeds," Tran said, his eyes cold. "But he also hears of your defiance. You will face a test, one that will either prove your worth or seal your doom." Henry swallowed hard, his Texan bravado tested. The court was watching, the floods were rising, and the glowing archway's secrets lingered like a half-remembered dream. As the monsoon season loomed, Henry's dikes and crops became the village's lifeline. But Nguyen's schemes and the mysterious archway threatened to unravel everything. Could Henry outwit a cunning Mandarin, harness his future knowledge to defy nature, and uncover the truth of his time-traveling fate? The stage was set for a trial that would push him to his limits, and beyond. Henry's journey is a roller coaster of ingenuity, danger, and mystery. You will be riveted by his clash with a scheming lord, charmed by his unlikely bond with Lin, and hooked by the tantalizing secret of the glowing archway. Will Henry's modern know-how save the day, or will superstition and betrayal bring him down? The stakes are skyrocketing, and every twist pulls you deeper into this epic saga. The air in Tan Hoa was thick with the scent of rain and tension as Henry Thompson, the Texan farmer stranded in 1100 Vietnam, stood before the royal envoy, Tran, in the village square. The crowd hushed, their eyes darting between Henry's weathered flannel and the envoy's silk robes, embroidered with dragons that seemed to writhe in the flickering torchlight. Tran's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "The king, Lian Tong, decrees that you, stranger, must save the royal fields in 7 days. The floods threaten Tang Long's harvest, and famine looms. Succeed, and you will be honored. Fail, and your head will roll." Henry's stomach churned, but his Texan grit held firm. 7 days to save a kingdom, or lose his life. The stakes couldn't be higher. The king's impossible challenge. Henry was escorted to Tang Long, the capital, a sprawling city of wooden palaces and bustling markets, now eerily quiet under the shadow of hunger. The royal fields, sprawling along the Red River, were a sodden mess, acres of rice drowned by relentless monsoons. The king's advisors, clad in ornate robes, whispered of divine curses, their eyes narrowing at Henry's foreign appearance. Lord Nguyen, the scheming Mandarin from Tan Hoa, stood among them, his smirk barely concealed. "This so-called gold farmer will fail," he muttered to Hung, his advisor. "And when he does, the king will see him for the fraud he is." Henry, undaunted, surveyed the fields with Lin, who'd insisted on joining him despite the danger. "This ain't no different from a Texas flood," he told her, though his voice betrayed a flicker of doubt. The scale was staggering, miles of waterlogged land, with dikes crumbling faster than he could repair them. Worse, the weather was turning. Dark clouds churned overhead, promising a storm that could wipe out what little rice remained. Henry's mind raced, pulling from every trick he'd learned on his Lubbock farm: drainage channels, reinforced levees, even makeshift windbreaks to protect the crops. But 7 days? It felt like a death sentence. The race against time. Henry rallied the royal workers, a mix of skeptical farmers and conscripted laborers, with the same fire he'd used in Ton Hoa. "Y'all want to eat this winter? Then move your butts and build," he shouted, his drawl drawing nervous laughs. He sketched plans for a massive dike system, using bamboo scaffolds to speed construction. Lynn translated his orders, her quick wit bridging the gap between his modern jargon and the workers' ancient tongue. They dug trenches to divert water, piled earth high with stones, and planted fast-growing reeds to stabilize the soil, a trick Henry recalled from a documentary on sustainable farming. But nature was merciless. On the third day, a torrential downpour struck, the river surging like a living beast. The new dikes groaned, and a section collapsed, flooding a field Henry had just drained. The workers panicked, some dropping their tools to pray. Lynn grabbed Henry's arm, her eyes wide. "They think it's a sign. When spreading word that you've angered the gods." Henry clenched his jaw, his boots sinking into the mud. "Ain't no gods gonna stop me," he growled. He climbed atop the breached dike, shouting over the storm, "We fix this now, or we all starve." His defiance rallied the workers, and they fought through the night, piling mud and bamboo under lightning's glare. By dawn, the dike held barely. Nguyen's betrayal. Lord Nguyen, sensing Henry's growing influence, struck with venom. On the 5th day, as Henry inspected a new drainage channel, guards seized him, their spears glinting. Nguyen stood before him, his voice dripping with malice. "You've been seen at the forbidden archway, stranger. You conspire with spirits to curse our land." Henry's heart sank. The glowing archway in the hills, his only clue to returning home, had been spotted by Nguyen's spies. Lynn, standing nearby, gasped but held her ground. "He's no sorcerer," she cried. "He's saving us." But the guards dragged Henry to a makeshift cell in the royal compound, a damp wooden cage that reeked of mildew. Inside, Henry's mind churned. Nguyen had framed him, using the archway's mystery to turn the court against him. Worse, the storm was intensifying, and without his guidance, the dikes would fail. He pounded the bars, his Texan temper flaring. "I ain't dying in this cage." Lynn, sneaking to his cell under cover of night, slipped him a bamboo shard to pick the lock. "The workers trust you," she whispered. "But Nguyen's convinced the king you're a threat. You must finish the fields." Henry's eyes met hers, a spark of gratitude cutting through his fear. With her help, he escaped, slipping into the rain-soaked night. The final stand. By the 6th day, the fields were a battlefield. The river roared, testing every dike Henry had built. He rejoined the workers, who greeted him with cautious hope. But Nguyen's lies had spread. Half the laborers refused to follow a cursed man. Henry, running on grit and desperation, took a gamble. He climbed a scaffold, his voice booming over the wind. "Y'all think I'm a sorcerer? Then watch this sorcery." He pointed to the strongest dike, still holding against the flood. "That's not magic, it's sweat and smarts. You want your kids to eat? Trust me one more day." His raw passion swayed the doubters, and they returned to work, hauling mud with renewed fury. As the 7th day dawned, the storm reached its peak. Lightning cracked, and the river surged, threatening to swallow the fields. Henry, Lynn, and the workers fought like warriors, reinforcing the dikes with every ounce of strength. Nguyen, sensing defeat, made a final play. He sabotaged a critical levee, loosening its supports under cover of rain. The structure buckled, water roaring through. Henry spotted the sabotage and sprinted toward the breach, shouting for help. Lynn rallied the workers, and together they piled stones and bamboo, their hands bleeding. Henry dove into the mud, bracing the levee with his own body as the flood roared. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed the river would win. Then, with a final heave, the workers sealed the gap. The dike held. The resolution. As the storm cleared, the royal field stood intact, green shoots peeking through the drained soil. The workers cheered, hoisting Henry onto their shoulders. Even the king's advisers, once skeptical, nodded in awe. King Lai Nantong arrived, his presence commanding silence. Nguyen, his face pale, tried to spin a new lie, but Lin stepped forward, exposing his sabotage with testimony from a loyal worker. The king's eyes narrowed. "You, Nguyen, will answer for this treachery," he declared, and the Mandarin was led away in chains. Henry, exhausted but triumphant, knelt before the king. "Your fields are safe, your majesty," he said, his voice hoarse. The king studied him, then raised him up. "You are no sorcerer, but a man of great wisdom. You will be my advisor, a lord of the fields." The crowd roared, and Lin beamed, her faith in Henry vindicated. But as the celebration began, Henry's gaze drifted to the hills. The glowing archway still called to him, its secrets unanswered. Was it his way home, or a new danger? The sun broke through the clouds over Tang Long, casting a golden glow on the royal fields, where green rice shoots swayed in the gentle breeze, a testament to Henry Thompson's impossible victory. The Texan farmer, now clad in a mix of his tattered flannel and a silk robe gifted by King Lai Nantong, stood before a cheering crowd. The king himself, resplendent in dragon-embroidered robes, had just declared him Lord of the Fields, a title that sent ripples of awe through the court. Lin, the village girl who'd become his fiercest ally, stood at his side, her eyes sparkling with pride. But beneath the celebration, a restless current tugged at Henry's heart. The glowing archway in the hills, pulsing with its eerie blue light, whispered promises of answers, or perils, yet to come. The weight of victory. Henry's new role as a royal advisor brought luxuries he'd never known in Lubbock. A private chamber in the palace, servants offering rice wine, and the respect of a kingdom saved from famine. Yet the weight of his title felt heavier than any plow. The court buzzed with intrigue, and whispers followed him. Some still called him Fu Chui, sorcerer, despite his triumph. Lord Nguyen's disgrace had silenced the loudest detractors, but Henry sensed new enemies lurking among the advisers, their smiles too sharp, their bows too shallow. Lin, ever perceptive, warned him over a quiet meal of steamed rice and fish. "You've made powerful friends, Henry, but power breeds envy. Watch your back." Henry nodded, his thoughts drifting to the archway. That night, as the palace slept, he slipped out, driven by a need to uncover its secrets. Lin, refusing to let him go alone, followed, her steps silent on the moonlit path. The hills loomed, dense with jungle and mystery. As they neared the ancient stone archway, its blue glow intensified, casting their shadows long and wavering. The strange symbols etched into the stone seemed to shimmer, almost alive. Henry's hand hovered over them, his heart pounding. "Prove your worth, traveler." The voice from before echoed in his mind, sharper now urgent. Lin clutched his arm, her voice trembling. "It knows you, Henry. It's waiting." Before he could touch the stone, a rustle broke the silence. A figure emerged from the shadows, an old monk, his robes tattered, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling calm. "You seek the gate of futures," he said, his voice low and resonant. "It brought you here, but its price is steep. Step through, and you may return to your time, or lose yourself forever." Henry's breath caught. Home, Lubbock, his fields, his old life, felt like a dream, yet the pull was undeniable. But what would he leave behind? The people he'd saved, Lin's fierce loyalty, a kingdom that needed him? A new threat emerges. The monk's words were cut short by the clatter of hooves. Royal guards, led by a new advisor, Lord Pham, a cold, ambitious man who'd risen in Nguyen's absence, surrounded them. "You trespass on sacred ground." Pham barked, his spear glinting. "The king will hear of this." Henry's gut twisted. Had his enemies been watching, waiting for this moment? Lin stepped forward, her voice steady. "He saved your fields. You owe him your trust." But Pham's smile was cruel. "The king trusts no man who consorts with spirits." The guard seized Henry and Lin, dragging them back to Tang Long. In the palace, King Lion and Tong awaited, his face unreadable. "You've done great deeds, Lord of the Fields," he said. "But this archway is forbidden. Why do you seek it?" Henry, his Texan honesty cutting through the court's formality, met the king's gaze. "I don't know how I got here, Your Majesty, but that gate might be my only way home. I saved your fields. Give me a chance to find my own future." The king studied him, torn between gratitude and suspicion. After a tense silence, he spoke. "You are free, but the gate is watched. Defy me again, and even your deeds won't save you." The open-ended choice. Released, Henry stood at the palace gates, the weight of his decision crushing him. The fields were thriving, the kingdom stable for now. Lynn, her eyes fierce with determination, grabbed his hand. "You don't have to go, Henry. You've built something here. We need you." Her words stirred something deep, a sense of purpose he'd never felt in Texas. But the archway's glow haunted him, promising answers to questions he couldn't ignore. Was it a portal home, or a trap? The monk's warning echoed. Its price is steep. Would stepping through erase everything he'd achieved, or lead to a new adventure? As dawn painted the sky, Henry made his choice, to stay for now, to strengthen the kingdom and uncover the archway's secrets from within. But the monk's final words lingered, whispered as he vanished into the jungle. "The gate will call again, traveler, and next time, you cannot refuse." Henry's heart raced. What lay beyond the gate? A return to 2025, or a journey to another time entirely? And what new threats would rise in Tang Long, where ambition simmered beneath every smile? This heart-pounding conclusion leaves you on the edge of your seat, craving answers. Henry's triumph is bittersweet, his future uncertain, and the mysterious gate of futures teases a twist that could change everything. Will he risk it all to chase the glow, or stay to face new dangers in a kingdom he's come to call home? Don't miss the next chapter. Subscribe and join us on my channel to uncover the thrilling secrets of Henry's journey in the next installment. The hills loomed, dense with jungle and mystery. As they neared the ancient stone archway, its blue glow intensified, casting their shadows long and wavering. The strange symbols etched into the stone seemed to shimmer, almost alive. Henry's hand hovered over them, his heart pounding. "Prove your worth, traveler." The voice from before echoed in his mind, sharper now urgent. Lynn clutched his arm, her voice trembling. "It knows you, Henry. It's waiting." Before he could touch the stone, a rustle broke the silence. A figure emerged from the shadows, an old monk, his robes tattered, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling calm. "You seek the gate of futures," he said, his voice low and resonant. "It brought you here, but its price is steep. Step through, and you may return to your time, or lose yourself forever." Henry's breath caught. Home, Lubbock, his fields, his old life, felt like a dream, yet the pull was undeniable. But what would he leave behind? The people he'd saved, Lynn's fierce loyalty, a kingdom that needed him? A new threat emerges. The monk's words were cut short by the clatter of hooves. Royal guards, led by a new advisor, Lord Pham, a cold, ambitious man who'd risen in Nguyen's absence, surrounded them. "You trespass on sacred ground." Pham barked, his spear glinting. "The king will hear of this." Henry's gut twisted. Had his enemies been watching, waiting for this moment? Lynn stepped forward, her voice steady. "He saved your fields. You owe him your trust." But Pham's smile was cruel. "The king trusts no man who consorts with spirits." The guards seized Henry and Lynn, dragging them back to Tang Long. In the palace, King Lion and Tong awaited, his face unreadable. "You've done great deeds, Lord of the Fields," he said. "But this archway is forbidden. Why do you seek it?" Henry, his Texan honesty cutting through the court's formality, met the king's gaze. "I don't know how I got here, Your Majesty, but that gate might be my only way home. I saved your fields. Give me a chance to find my own future." The king studied him, torn between gratitude and suspicion. After a tense silence, he spoke. "You are free, but the gate is watched. Defy me again, and even your deeds won't save you." The open-ended choice. Released, Henry stood at the palace gates, the weight of his decision crushing him. The fields were thriving, the kingdom stable for now. Lynn, her eyes fierce with determination, grabbed his hand. "You don't have to go, Henry. You've built something here. We need you." Her words stirred something deep, a sense of purpose he'd never felt in Texas. But the archway's glow haunted him, promising answers to questions he couldn't ignore. Was it a portal home, or a trap? The monk's warning echoed. Its price is steep. Would stepping through erase everything he'd achieved, or lead to a new adventure? As dawn painted the sky, Henry made his choice, to stay for now, to strengthen the kingdom and uncover the archway's secrets from within. But the monk's final words lingered, whispered as he vanished into the jungle. "The gate will call again, traveler, and next time, you cannot refuse." Henry's heart raced. What lay beyond the gate? A return to 2025, or a journey to another time entirely? And what new threats would rise in Tang Long, where ambition simmered beneath every smile? This heart-pounding conclusion leaves you on the edge of your seat, craving answers. Henry's triumph is bittersweet, his future uncertain, and the mysterious gate of futures teases a twist that could change everything. Will he risk it all to chase the glow, or stay to face new dangers in a kingdom he's come to call home? Don't miss the next chapter. Subscribe and join us on my channel to uncover the thrilling secrets of Henry's journey in the next installment.